The United States, the third largest country in both size and population, has around 334 million residents. Surprisingly, almost half of the country is uninhabited, with New York City alone having more people than the combined population of the following 9 states. So what keeps so few Americans from living in these sparsely populated states despite their breathtaking landscapes? We'll find out in today's video. Number 9. Maine. Located so far north that its residents could easily be mistaken for Canadians, boasts a landscape resembling our friendly maple syrup-loving neighbors. Despite its beauty, with pine forests, glacial lakes, rocky coastlines, and moose, the state's population is relatively low at 1.385 million. The main reason for this is the challenging climate, evident in the population density map, which reveals that most Mainers inhabit the south or coastal areas with milder winters. The majority of the state, 89% covered in untouched forest, experience harsh winters akin to those in Game of Thrones, leading to limited industry. Although Portland is a charming city, Maine is the most rural state, with only 38.7% living in urban centers. Unless you're from generational wealth or a trust fund baby enjoying snowmobiling, Maine may not appeal to the younger demographic, which is reflected in its high median age of 44.8 years. Number 8. Montana. With vast farmlands in the east and towering mountains in the west, seems like a cowboy's paradise. Surprisingly, despite its immense size of 147,000 square miles, it houses only 1.12 million residents, making it the third least densely populated state with just 7.5 people per square mile. The reason is straightforward. Most Americans, especially millennials and Gen Z, prefer urban living with job opportunities and city amenities. Montana lacks these attractions, as its large city, Billings, has around 100,000 residents, and some towns are so isolated that the nearest Walmart is a 2 to 3 hour drive away. Despite its scenic beauty, Montana grapples with overinflated home prices and extreme weather, including the lowest recorded US temperature outside of Alaska at -70 degrees Fahrenheit. While a summer visit to Glacier National Park might be appealing, the year-round reality in Montana with relentless cold and snow makes it a challenging place for most to call home. Number 7. Rhode Island. Rhode Island and Montana share a similarity in population, but that's where the common ground ends. While Montana is vast, landlocked, and characterized by mountains, Rhode Island is small, coastal, and flat. As the smallest state at just 1,034 square miles, Rhode Island's population of less than 1.1 million is constrained by its limited space, being the second most densely populated state with 1,061 people per square mile. Almost the entire state is urban and part of the Providence metro area. Despite this, the crowded population is gradually decreasing due to a rising cost of living comparable to New York. Additionally, there are other New England states that outshine Rhode Island in various aspects. Number 6. Delaware. Nearly twice the size of Rhode Island at 1,948 square miles, is still quite small, about the size of Anchorage. But unlike Rhode Island, which benefits from the mid-sized city of Providence, Delaware's main city is Wilmington, home to only 70,000 residents. The absence of large metropolises in Delaware, despite hosting over 2 million corporations, can be traced back to historical factors. Wilmington could have been a contender, but Philadelphia, just 30 miles away, had a strategic advantage in terms of location and historical significance. The rest of Delaware, positioned away from major corridors and trading routes, relies largely on the beach tourism-based economy. The state's business-friendly policy, allowing companies to avoid state income tax if they only operate outside Delaware, doesn't contribute to local job creation. Despite these factors, Delaware's population, driven in part by retirees attracted to its beaches, has grown by 1.4% over the past year to reach 1.02 million. Number 5. South Dakota. South Dakota, home to Mount Rushmore, which often gets confused with Wall Drug due to heavy marketing. Despite the exaggerated hype about Wall Drug, the state's most cultural landmark is indeed Mount Rushmore. South Dakota's vastness, remoteness, and chilly climate contribute to its status as the fifth smallest state by population and density, with only 909,000 residents. To put it into perspective, South Dakota's land area is 17% larger than Florida, yet it has fewer residents than Jacksonville. Historically, the Great Plains states, including South Dakota, lacked major city centers as their populations were mostly rural, with economies centered around agriculture and mining. However, driving through South Dakota feels so much more desolate compared to Nebraska or Kansas, with fewer houses, farms, truck stops, and signs of civilization. Number 4. North Dakota. Known for having the darkest, coldest winters in the lower 48, along with hot summers and spring flash floods, it's not surprising that fewer than 780,000 people call this isolated state home. South Dakota, with its better weather, tax laws, and more diversified economy, seems more appealing. North Dakota's historical isolation from major urban centers and limited supplies and services contribute to its lower population. Settlers heading west often continued to the coast for more arable land, richer resources, and milder climates, leaving North Dakota with insufficient permanent population and industry for large cities. Despite affordable farmland, farmers in the late 1800s and early 1900s often opted for the Canadian prairies due to the aspen parkland belt, a plains ecosystem offering abundant rain, trees, and fertile soil. Remarkably, Winnipeg, just 70 miles north of North Dakota, has a population surpassing that of the entire state. Number 3. Alaska. Alaska, the giant among states, is so massive that even if you cut it in half, each part would still be the largest state. Despite its expansive 665,000 square miles, much of it is inaccessible and remote. It takes a 40-hour, 22-mile drive through Canada to reach the nearest non-Alaskan US city, with many large communities unreachable by car. With just 16,000 miles of road in the entire state, Alaska falls short by 5,000 miles compared to Connecticut, and you could fit 120 Connecticuts in Alaska. It truly lives up to being called the last frontier, where grizzlies, moose, and wolves roam freely, and vast, untamed landscapes, including forests, coasts, mountains, and tundra, surpass the size of Mongolia. Despite its breathtaking beauty, Alaska's wilderness is unforgiving. Only 733,000 residents endure its desolate, long, dark, and freezing winters, with common temperatures dropping to -40 degrees Fahrenheit and less than 4 hours of daylight. While Mongolia holds the title for the emptiest and least densely populated country globally, Alaska's population density is 1/4 of that, plummeting to a mere 0.5 people per square mile if you exclude Anchorage, the state's sole city. This vast space contributes to Alaska's highest crime rate and number of serial killers per capita, offering ample room to go unnoticed. Although the outdoors are enticing, living in Alaska comes with challenges even with financial incentives, as the cost of living is high, the economy isn't robust, and everything tends to be more expensive. Number 2. Vermont. Besides being known as Bernie Sanders' home, Vermont evokes images of cozy farmhouses amidst vibrant colors. Many envisions residents waking up to the sound of birds and rushing water, savoring a breakfast with Vermont maple syrup. This picturesque view holds true, as Vermont, the 6th smallest state by area, embraces rural living, with only 38.9% residing in urban centers and the state's challenging mountainous and forested terrain unsuitable for large cities. Vermont is sparsely populated with just 647,000 residents. While the idea of disliking Canadians may seem amusing, the more logical explanation lies in the cold climate, shared with Canada, making these states less appealing. Despite this, Vermont's stunning landscapes, affordability compared to other New England states, and a thriving job market in Burlington have made it one of the most popular states to move to since 2020. It remains to be seen if Vermont can surpass Alaska or North Dakota in future years. Now, before we get to the number 1 state, if you have reached this part of the video, Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, and share which state you'd most like to live in. And on to 3 honorable mentions with larger populations than Maine but still mostly empty, starting with New Mexico. With 2.1 million residents, it's the 5th largest state, but its population density of 17.2 people per square mile, the 6th lowest, makes it emptier than North Dakota, especially if you exclude the Albuquerque metro area. Next is Idaho. Boasting 1.94 million residents, with a recent increase of over 100,000. Despite this growth, the state remains sparsely populated, featuring the most untouched national forest and only 22.3 people per square mile. Lastly, Nevada. Home to 3.18 million people, but did you know that 83% of the state is uninhabited? If you exclude Las Vegas, where 3.4 million reside, the population density drops to just 7.7 people per square mile. Quite a vast and empty landscape. Now, without further ado, number 1. Wyoming. Unless you've been completely out of the loop or dwelling in Rock Springs, you've likely heard that Wyoming isn't exactly teeming with people. While it holds the title of the 2nd least densely populated state with a mere 5.9 people per square mile, there are still 581,381 hardworking and friendly Wyomingites braving the windiest weather in America. Having visited the state multiple times, I can attest that living in Wyoming's windy, remote, rugged, dry, cold, and elevated terrain requires resilience, especially with the absence of real cities, limited job opportunities, and few services. Interestingly, Wyoming's economy heavily relies on the government, employing 25% of the workforce for the state or federal government. This reliance contributes to the state being one of the safest places to buy a home. And that's it for the 9 empty states of the USA. Not gonna lie, I didn't really think they'd be that empty or at least that desolate. The US has always seemed like it's teeming with population in every state. What do you think about that? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, do hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.